Welcome to the third video in our HTML tutorial series for beginners. I just wanted to mention a few things from the last video real quick before we get into the topics of this video, which are going to be adding images to your web page and a few other things. So in the last video, you might have noticed the title element was kind of all on one line. The only reason that is because it's short, okay? The reason why the head element I kind of made on a different line to do the closing tag is because we're going to have a lot of stuff in there, right? We're going to have a lot of a lot of stuff in there, and you don't have to do that. I could have just as easily done this, made it all on the same line. It's the exact same thing as far as the browser is concerned. The only difference is it just makes it a little easier for us to see what's going on when we kind of add some space in there. And you can add space and line breaks any way you want. If you remember from the last video, the browser doesn't care. Okay, the browser does not care if I add space in here or if I add space, between the words, like we kind of illustrated in the last video. It just doesn't care about that. It only cares about that first space, and anything else you do is kind of for your own purposes, just visually to kind of see things better, and you can set it up any way you want. In this video, we're going to add an image to our web page, and I put the image in my folder that we made. So here's the image. I just named it new image, and I'll show you how to access that. And the really important thing though is that it's in the same folder as your index, okay? Because if it's not, you can still access it if it's not, but I'm not going to show you that in this video. I'm only going to show you how to access it when it's in the same directory. Let's call it a directory as your mine's called index, but whatever you named your web page. So in here, I'm going to go, I'm going to add an element. It's an image element. It looks just like that. And this is another element, just like the break tag, that doesn't have a closing component. And the reason is because we're actually going to put our information within the tag using what's called an attribute. And an attribute, before I get into that, I just want to mention that this is an image tag, but it's not enough information, because the browser would say, like, what image do you want? All you did was kind of make an image element, but you never told me where the image is. And that's kind of what we're going to do with the attribute source. And to add an attribute to an element, you just kind of add that space after the keyword. And then one of the attributes of this element is source, and that's, for the most part, that's really all you need to learn about the image element. Is just its image source. Okay, that's all you need to do to add an image. And we're going to set it to something, right? And the something is always going to go between quotation marks, so that's important. And so whatever we put in here is going to be between those quotation marks with the equal sign, and that's the general form of an attribute, is just that equal sign, the quotation marks, and the space. Okay, just that space after the keyword. And our source is going to be new image.jpg. Okay, so it's so we're putting the full name of the image, and the reason we only have to put the name and not the directory or anything like that is because we're in the same folder. Our index is in the same folder as our image, and so the browser is going to know where that is. And so I'll close that and save this and reload. Okay, so there's our image. And this is kind of words of wisdom by Jaden. So I thought it was pretty funny, but so that's our image. And you might have also noticed that our image did not go down to the next line. So if we wanted to do that, we could just add a break there and save it and reload. Now it's kind of underneath the text, but again, that's going to be something we'll deal with CSS later. If you want to position your images, there are ways in HTML to position this the way we kind of want, but it's really, in my opinion, it's really not even worth learning, because CSS can take care of all that for us. So I'm going to delete that. And if we wanted to add another image, it would just be more of the same, just that attribute and the image name in relation to the location of your index, which in this case, since it's in the same folder, all we had to do is put the name. So if it was not in the same folder, I'll probably get into that in the next few videos, but sometimes you might have a folder, let's see, create new folder. Sometimes you might have a folder, let's say it's named images, and then you have all your images in that folder, and then we could also access it that way, but we'll have to add more kind of more information in our source here. So for now, just kind of put everything in the same folder, and then you can just access it by just giving the name. And there's another attribute to image, which I'll show you, and you don't have to use this attribute. It's just another attribute that's available to you. And if you want to add a second attribute, all you do is just add that space after the first attribute, and it's the alt. I don't know how you really want to say it, like an alternative text. In the old days, when it took pictures a really long time to load, it would just be text that somebody could look at while the picture was loading. So just so they have an idea what they're waiting for. In other words, not really that big of a deal anymore today, except for search engine optimization. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if Google still uses it, but a few years ago, it was definitely important to have the alt attribute also. So the alt would be, Jaden, please, or, something like that. So if I save that and reload, you won't really be able to see it, but it's, if the image was taking a really long time to load, it would just say the text in place of the image. I know that was probably too much information, but just know that there's a second attribute to the image element called alt, and you don't have to use it by any means, but I just wanted to show you how to add a second attribute, and just know that some elements have multiple attributes that you can use if you want. You don't have to use all of them for each element, but there are things called attributes for certain elements that you can use if you want. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website. It's linko.com. Thanks a lot.